Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of Free Game with Emery Nicole. I have my best friend, my soul sister friend, Casi Johnson here with me, and we are going to discuss doing it scared.
Ooh,
yes.
Doing it scared.
As an entrepreneur.
Okay. I'm doing this scared.
I'm doing this scared. If y'all know how many
takes
we've had of this.
just today, in the last hour and a half.
Basically. Yeah.
Jinx.
You owe me a soda.
No, you owe me a soda because I said jinx. Anyway. Hi, Emery.
Hi, Casi.
Thank you for having me on Free Game.
Of course.
I hope you guys are ready for this free game because honestly, I don't have much of it, but I will give you what I have.
She lying. Okay, so let's tell the people about you and give a little brief background of who Casi J is.
Really briefly, I am Casi J. I am a bilingual speech therapist here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I also recently started a publishing company for children. It's really geared towards children that have language delays and other developmental delays that preclude them from developing language at a typical rate. So that's basically it.
Okay.
That's me in 30 seconds.
And before we head into what it is that makes you an entrepreneur, did you want to tell the people what the name of your business is, or you want to save that?
Yes, I would. I am the founder, CEO, and owner of Sam Corley Publishings. You can follow me. Well, you can follow the company Instagram. Sam Corley Publishings. You could also find us on Facebook, Sam Corley Publishings. I'm just in the process of introducing my character, so that'll be exciting. We'll talk about it, but it's been a process.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So what is it like now being in the space because I know, but I'm sure the people don't know, your level of employment or who you worked for before you had Sam Corley, or you're in the space of also being an independent contractor now as a speech pathologist. So what was that like, and what is your transition now like as being an independent contractor?
So when I first moved down here to Georgia, I worked for the school system, and basically I was a typical W-2 employee. I received my checks every single week. I didn't have to worry about taxes. My health care payment came right out of my weekly checks. And basically the money that I made, I just, spent it how I saw fit. But about a little over a year ago, I decided that I wanted to have more control over my schedule. So I decided to become an independent contractor of a private speech therapy company. And so being an independent contractor is very much different than being a W-2 employee. It is a version of entrepreneurship. So basically, as an independent contractor, I set my own schedule. I let the office know when I can come in. I communicate directly with parents, like, hey, I'm here I can have services this week, or, I won't be in the office this week, or I'll let you know if services are going to be this week. But my paycheck is very much dependent upon service. However many kids I see, that's what I get paid for. I don't get paid for just showing up. I don't get paid if I don't see a child. So there's definitely a hustler aspect. I have a number in my head that I want to make minimally. And so I'm very conscientious of that. If I can't see a student today, I try everything in my power to reschedule them. But then there's sometimes where it doesn't work out. And it's okay if I miss out on that particular payment. But I am not provided health insurance. My taxes are not taken out. And those are things that I have to budget for and take care of. So very much different. As an SLP, speech language pathologist, I'm in charge of all of those things in that regard as a business owner. And then now I'm becoming a part-time entrepreneur with Sam Corley Publishings, although I don't make any profit off of that just yet. But definitely being an independent contractor is helping me to develop how to be a business owner, I would say.
And then I think I would like to say the most thing, or majority of, I don't even know if I can say majority of business owners, but I will say for the hair care industry, we're creatives at heart. So as a hairstylist, you love the fun. You want to do the fun. Nobody wants to focus on the discipline of what it takes to have a business. Like, dig into the numbers, because even when you're an independent contractor, you still have to, again, like Casey said, take care of your health insurance, pay your taxes, whether you're doing your taxes every time you get paid, whether that's every 2 weeks, monthly, or quarterly. Like, you have to break it down and see how it works for you. But it's those disciplines or how you steward yourself in that area of your business, which kind of determines your level of work ethic. Because think in a sense, if as independent contractors, like if we decided that we wanted to just work willy-nilly, not pay attention to our numbers or pay attention to, like, of course, things that we need to do, like pay our taxes and health insurance, it's basically like you really have no game plan. There's no healthy foundation there. So I know for me, as an entrepreneur or as a woman who is trying to grow her business and to scale her business as a certain way, it is my due diligence to pay attention to everything, of course, as we listed, like our taxes, our health insurance, and things of that nature, but even your day-to-day numbers. Like, let's say if we have a certain quota that we're trying to meet with a certain number of clients that we have. So if you're not paying attention to your seasons, basically what is a demanding season, when is a slow season, and some of these things you're able to figure out once you're, I would say, at least 2 years in, because you have year 1 and year 2 to compare it to, basically how your sales or how your demand is doing for clients and people that want to come visit you. So yeah, I would say as a business owner, it's definitely fun, but we have to have discipline in those areas and in those points that Casey brought up.
So, but to add on to that, one of the best advice that I got was from the lady who does my taxes, and I went to go see her. So I've only been an independent contractor, like I said, for 1 year. And so I went to go see my tax lady to do my pre-tax meeting. And she said, well, how much are you paying yourself? And I was just like, well, the entire check, of course.
Right, we want that back.
I want the entire check. And she definitely had to sit me down and school me on what it is to be a business owner and what it is to have an employee. Because I honestly believe if the best way to learn how to be a boss is to learn how to be a boss to yourself, you know? And so she recommended that I start looking at myself as my own employee, meaning I have to pay myself a specific amount of money. So she said, figure out what figure you can live off comfortably each month. And then set aside, take out your taxes, and anything else goes into your business account. And like I said, that was the best advice she could have given me, because I actually have money, a good amount of money in my business account, because now that means that I have money left over to buy supplies. That means that I can pay my health insurance out of my business account. I've decided to pay my car note out of my business account because I use it 85% of the time driving back and forth to work. I pay for, like I said, supplies, uniforms, shoes, and things like that for my business, for my job. And even then, that's what's been funding my ability to get characters illustrated and illustrating my first book. So it's very important to be organized. I wasn't financially responsible. I struggle with being disciplined with finances because I just love the fun parts of life that require, ironically, the most money. So I've learned that, okay, I'm going to live off of this. This part is for taxes, and this just stays in the business. And that's if you're looking for free game, that's free game.
That's free game.
Point number one.
Mm-hmm.
Pay yourself, set an amount that you pay yourself monthly out of your business, set your taxes aside, and everything else goes into your business account so you can actually fund different things.
Mm-hmm. And to reiterate what Casey was saying, we all want the fun part of entrepreneurship. Who doesn't? That's why we started, because we feel that we're creating the best lane possible in this category. So if I do hair, naturally I feel like Pivot is the best thing since sliced bread. Because of Casey, she feels like Sam Corley Publishing is the best publishing company for children's books.
But also it's a fact.
And I mean that as well. So, but we're here, and this podcast is here to help you understand and not be fearful of becoming an entrepreneur and running away from the nitty gritty, the things that are going to sustain your business. So you can definitely have your pleasure, but as an entrepreneur, but make sure that you are doing what you can do with your company. So it has sustainability, longevity, and that is making sure that you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's with your finances and everything that it takes to maintain your business on the books.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay. We will be taking a tithe and offering after this is over. Going straight to the business account. Okay.
Going straight to the business account. Okay. To bring podcasts like this here for you all. So, what would you say scares you most about entrepreneurship or even starting?
Definitely off the bat, it's the financial instability and insecurity. Because I think a lot of this comes from growing up. Obviously, I didn't grow up in an affluent family. I had everything that I needed. I didn't experience, living in a house where every other month the electricity was cut off or we didn't have running water, at least. Sometimes it was out, and I'm not really sure if it was related to that because somebody told me something differently, but that's not something that I really remember as having to deal with. But there were instances where I experienced lack. And, I feel like when you go through something that you perceive to be traumatic, you always make these kind of inner promises, like I'll never be in a position that will make me need or want for anything else. And that kind of fueled my financial instability when I got out of school, because I'm making this money now, and I was just doing whatever I want because it's like, it's my money. It doesn't have to go to anyone else. Nobody can tell me I can't have it. And so I'm sitting here and I'm just spending it how I want to and not being disciplined. And so just having to work on that and fine tune that, I'm finally at a place where it's like, you know what? I can say no to things and I don't feel deprived because I know that, okay, I said no to this, but I have this in savings now, So becoming an entrepreneur, it definitely makes me feel insecure. There's definitely, you have to be a hustler. And I wouldn't say that by nature I'm a hustler. I'm a hard worker. I've had a job since I was like 15. And so I'm a workhorse. I will work. But I think being a hard worker and being a hustler is different. And so that doesn't come naturally to me. And I was stretched over this last year, even as an independent contractor, trying to, okay, well, I need to see this is, this is going to be a slow month. Okay, well, that means I can't miss and I can't go on vacation, or I need to work this, or I need to extend my hours on Friday. I can't work a half day, or I need to make sure that I make up this kid or these group of kids. It was stressful initially until I got into a rhythm of things. So definitely the scariest thing is the financial instability. And I feel like I've pushed past that fear, This episode is called, Doing It Scared. Been doing it scared for a year, and now I'm comfortable in being uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Yes. So I would say, like, listening to Casi, I would say there are 2 to 3 points maybe I want to drill home, and about doing it scared. And she was bringing the correlation of having like a strong work ethic and really working, like being a hard worker and being a hustler. So like as she was speaking, I was asking myself, like, Emery, are you a hustler? Like, have you always been a hustler? Because I know naturally, like Casi has said, I've been working since I've been 15. But I think that strong work ethic and that drive was embedded in me because of my parents. Like, I've seen them work hard. So sometimes I think we naturally equate working hard and being a hustler in the same entity, but it's not, just like Casi said. So I think when you become an entrepreneur, of course, having a strong work ethic is the driving force, but there are definitely moments where your back is against the wall or that financial instability that we're insecure about. And it's like, damn, like I'm 1,000 shy of my goal this month. And I think that's what triggers or initiates your hustler mentality. Because especially if you're a full-time entrepreneur and you know that this is something that's putting bread and butter on your table, like you have to make something shake. And I feel like a lot of the times when you get to the space of I work hard and now I'm a hustler, it's like you can really like pull some shit together. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I don't have this, but I can make this work. And I feel like once you find like that character trait about yourself as an entrepreneur, it gets easier to digest what it is to be an entrepreneur, and it makes it safer to jump. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to start other projects. So like, say it's like Sam Corley Publishing's now, and you're in a safe space of like, I'm not fearful of this being like a financial insecurity or X, Y, and Z. So now let me try this. And this is how free game got here. But I would just like to say, like, in a real thing, being scared as an entrepreneur, especially if it's your first business venture and it's your baby, it is natural to be scared. Like, even me, I'm like, I would say 2 businesses in, the second being Pivot and Emery Nicole Hair Studios being my first. Like, even starting this podcast, it's very like scary for me a little bit. Now it's not right now as recording because I'm in my zone, but it's always, and I think for Casi, like she mentioned the financial insecurity, but it's always like, will people perceive your project, your business, your baby the way you will? And I think naturally, we hope so, but I think honestly, you want that concern, but you really don't, because at the end of the day, you starting your business is you seeing a vision that works for you and that someone needs that. You're putting out fires, you're problem solving. So in a sense, your audience and your market will make its way to you as you continue to push forward through your fears.
But to that point, that's also a second thing of being, as an entrepreneur. And, that's another thing that's pretty scary as an entrepreneur, like you were saying, like, is your business going to be perceived how you envisioned it? And sometimes that will either educate you on, okay, this was your intention, but this is really how it was supposed to go, or it will show you where your blind spot is. And it's like, okay, this is what you had in mind, but that doesn't even work. So this is better, or you need to refigure something out. And I think in that same thread, in that same vein, I think it's also being afraid to start small. I know for me, I have under 100 followers on my Sam Corley Publishing's Instagram account. I have almost 200 on my Facebook account, but we're so used to seeing people on social media when they're at their peak. Sometimes even seeing these overnight successes, right? But you don't see the difference between that one night that made a difference and however many days or weeks or months or years that came before that.
Yeah.
And that's one downside of social media. And that's something that I fall victim to a lot of times. It's like, man, I'm working hard. I wish I could just have a magic wand and I could just be there. But it's like, I'm definitely appreciating all the struggles that I've been through. I mean, we'll get to what I've actually dealt with, but I can be appreciative of that, even though it's hard and scary,
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, and then we'll probably wrap this segment up and go into our next question. But I'm thinking like doing it scared, even if you're fearful or even when you're fearful, just get it done, because you can go back, you can rebrand, you can trim down things, you can adjust as the vision is moving. You just need to get going. So again, like Pivot came originally from ego boost, and that was doing hair in undergrad, me not even knowing that I wanted to do hair full time. I just enjoyed doing hair and basically having it as a side hustle, because in undergrad, I worked as a CA in Res Life. I worked retail at Home Goods, and I was doing hair on the side. So maybe I was a hustler.
Maybe, but I also think like hair came out of nowhere. It was like one day you're just like, oh, well, I just do my own relaxers. She's actually the last person that gave me gave me my very last relaxer, and that was almost 10 years ago. So I've been natural 10 years. This isn't mine, but under here, it's natural. But that could make you a hustler. But I think it's really interesting to see the transition from doing ego boost. And really, it was more of like a hashtag, like hashtag ego boost, and that caught on. And then it became a formal like business, Emery Nicole Hair Studios. And now we're here with Pivot. It's just like more refined, more, forward moving, more focused on what the actual goal is as a business owner that also happens to do hair care as well.
And I think also to understand like your first model, even if it's a rough draft, it's okay to start with, because you're going to get your pieces along the way. There's never a situation where someone starts off as an entrepreneur and they have A, B, C, and D. You might only have A and B, and dealing with A and B You are going to, go through a lot of humbling moments. God will expose you for who he is to you. God will expose like the things that you need to work on, in a sense, to connect you to C and D. And I think it's letting go of, you got to have it all right in the beginning, because that's never how it works. And just kind of, I wouldn't say like, don't set your expectations as high, but do understand that there's always room for improvement. There's always something to be worked on. And
if you don't do it scared, then your passion won't be shared. I needed a second for that one.
If you don't do it scared, your passion won't be shared. And even
period,
poo. even though that was on a whim, like that's really, really true. Let's get into the oh my gosh, you're not goofy too?
I'm never goofy.
Lies. You just said the lady. What was it that you just said? Oh, okay. Anyway, how did quarantine influence you or impact you as an entrepreneur? What was it like staying home on lockdown?
Oh my gosh, I hated it.
Really?
Well, see, and I live in Georgia, so we operate a little bit differently than most of y'all. But I hated it. Like, who likes to just only be confined to one space? Especially when I'm used to being able to get up and go whenever I want to, being able to fly where and whenever I want to, out of the country at that. So I hated it. But I will say that during quarantine, it afforded me a lot of different opportunities that I would not have typically had. Financially, it let me get myself together. I was able to pay off a medical bill. I was able to pay off all my credit cards, which was awesome, because then that freed up money to, maybe I'm going to pay myself less so that I can have more money in my business account so that I can do more things with Sam Corley Publishing. So that I thought that was a great benefit. But also it allowed me to focus on working with my illustrator on like what I wanted the characters to look like. What did I want the books to look like? The first draft of the characters, I wasn't a fan of, mainly because it just looked like regular tracings or whatever it is. And it's like, that's something that we talked about. And I was honest with the illustrator up front. But I think because obviously she was in quarantine as well, it helped her to fine tune her skills. She's a complete like beginner, just like I am. And so within, I think a span of 6 days, she came back and the characters looked completely different. It was the same characters, but they had more depth and more character. And the quarantine allowed us to really focus on that and really get what I feel is a correct book for what I'm trying to do. So it afforded a lot of opportunities for me to fine tune things that I had been daydreaming about, thinking about over the last year, I would say, forcing you to be still. And because that's something that we just don't do often.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I would just like to excuse that. That's my husband. So I would just like to say that for being in the pandemic or the stay-at-home order, for me, I didn't realize like I needed that much of a break. Like I didn't realize that I needed to kind of like stop and slow down, because I was in a groove of making money, working. And I'm like, okay, like the weekend is fine. I could take a break there. And then initially when Roy Cooper, our governor, was like, nah, shut that down. You're going to stay at home. And I was just like, what? Oh, Roy, what does that look like? Like me being home. And again, like the first 2 weeks were very uncomfortable because I had to find new systems and routines for myself. So I would do everything from like wake up, brush my teeth, shower, work out. I would drop Harley off at daycare, and I would just come home and really indulge and focus in on my business. And I always knew I wanted a podcast, but I just really didn't know what the focus would be. Like I knew that I had to do one, but it was just so loose. It wasn't refined. So, I spent the time trying to create ways for passive income, like offering t-shirts and things like that for Pivot, and then Free Game, and this is going to lead into another episode, just kind of birthed out of something that I did that felt right. So I would say without being home or without staying home, I don't know if I would have gotten here.
Correct.
Because for me, it was just like work. And then like you would decide, is it time to do this? No, not right now. Work. And it was just like, I needed to breathe.
Yeah.
I needed to find a different essence of Emory. And I feel like a lot of that time, one, I was able to heal a lot with God. And because I created a new way for us to meet and fellowship, I feel like kind of fostered the opportunity for me to grow and evolve in another way. So it did me good, but I feel like staying home also birthed other things or focused attention on other things about me that I didn't know that I had creative. Because if we're being completely honest, I saw my career like solely being centered around the beauty industry and doing hair. And now that I have this podcast, I'm like, I really could see me segueing into media. Like, I love to talk. I can talk for days, but I want to use my voice with intention and with true purpose. And being able to be home and discover that, and now had this, like, I'm so excited.
You should be.
So excited.
You should be excited. We're arriving.
Yes, we are.
Arriving.
And I'm so glad you're arriving with me and riding this entrepreneur train with me. Like,
because I mean, you've definitely helped me kind of look at things from because this is your second entrepreneurial endeavor, and it's like, this is like my first, and I didn't really know anything. So it's really good to have somebody who's kind of left footsteps, breadcrumbs for me to follow. Right. Exactly.
Hello, and we're back.
We're Bizac.
Oh my
Back to the house. Back to the crib. You know that I want you. She don't know that we going back.
Okay, pause. Before we get
Game.
into anything else, if you did not know at this point in time, Free Game with Emory Nicole can also be viewed on YouTube. So there will be a link attached somewhere whenever I figure this out. But yes, just know that you can digest this audibly or visually. Ooh.
I've actually never heard that tagline before. You digest Free Game audibly or visually. Wherever podcasts are uploaded.
Podcast.
I said podcast.
Oh, it's straight. We're still in the building stages.
And videos are uploaded.
Yes, digest us and consume this content in your way. Yeah, that's good.
I like it.
All right.
Cool.
So, how would you tell us your process is going with Sam Corley Publishings? And I guess this would be a great way to present to the people what that brand is and how you got there and who it's for.
Well, Sam Corley Publishings it's basically a name that I came up with that kind of joins the first name of one of my grandfathers with the last name of my other grandfather. That's how I came up with Sam Corley Publishings. It was basically birthed out of a necessity as a speech therapist. I hate planning. I am not always. Oh my gosh.
You are the biggest planner I know.
Really?
Or
I don't know
not.
anybody that would say that.
Really? So do you think I'm more of a planner than you?
Yes.
Really?
The idea of having a journal for different things makes me want to vomit.
Are you serious?
I have to force myself.
Damn, so when I be talking about I got a journal for this, I got a journal for that,
I'm
you
like,
be like,
okay. I have a calendar that I haven't written in since January 1 of this year. Like, basically, I am not organized. Or it's not that I'm not organized, I just don't prefer structure. I prefer to improv. Mm-hmm. So now as a speech therapist, I'm at the level where I don't have to plan any of my therapy. I can have a kid assess them, and within a minute or two, I can know, okay, these are the activities that I can do for them. The issue is when I was working in the school system, I felt like everything needed to be more structured. I only had a certain amount of time, and I was working with not one kid, not two kids, but 3 to 4 kids at a time that sometimes had different goals. So I wanted to find an activity that touched on everyone's goals, that was engaging, and it didn't require a lot of planning for me. And books were the easiest thing. They met at least two of the criteria. It was fun and engaging, and there are so many other ways that it could target different language or speech goals. I was still taking a lot of time adapting the books. And what I mean by adapting the books, it's just giving them visual adaptions or visual content to kind of adding visualizations to the words. Yeah, that's basically what it is. And it would take a long time to do that. Add to that I'm also working with Spanish-speaking families. So I have to adapt the book visually and then adapt and translate the words, right? That's extra work. And I was like, well, why can't I have a book that is already translated or offered in multiple languages that's already adapted? And that's where St. Corley Publishings came from. So, thank you. And, so that's a quick just reason for why I felt like it was necessary. These books can be read by kids that are typically developing, but, they're specifically gauged towards kids that have developmental delays, language-wise or whatever. But they can read for, typically developing or children with delays. So as far as the process, I came up with different levels for each book, similar to reading levels. If you're a parent, you probably know. I mean, with Lana, you probably know. Reading different levels. And she's a beautiful reader, by the way.
Yeah, she is. And she's well articulated. Like, I was segue when I was in her room while she was gone with her mom, and I was looking at her board, because she has a board up above her headboard. Yeah. And she has everything detail oriented. So Lana's an extreme planner. Like, she's more of a planner than me. But even like her word articulation of how she was speaking to herself, I was like, girl, you speak like you're in the 11th grade in high school. And I'm like, yes, honey.
Exactly. So, but if you have a kid that's probably third grade and younger, they did these reading levels, and that's how you know, okay, well, are they at grade reading level, or are they below reading level, or are they above, whatever. So I came up with the levels. That took about 1.5 years because I started trying to do it, and I was like, yo, this is hard. So I stopped for a year because it was hard.
As we do sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I picked it back up last September, and miraculously, I got it in 7 days. There's God for you.
Yeah, that. And I also believe, like, sometimes when we stop something and we come back to it with fresh eyes or a fresh mindset, the idea is still there, but it's refined in a sense. So it's like, you can take the pressure off of your level of expectation and like being so up on it,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So the levels was the first thing. And then I came up with a prototype for the book. Basically, this program that I use called Simple Sticks, literally, it's a whole bunch of stick figures that are doing different actions.
Really?
And you can make a story out of it. Exactly. Like, it's exactly like that.
Drinking.
Literally.
Really?
It's except a stick figure.
Okay, so
that's exactly what it is.
It's like,
well, no, they would bend the arm. It would be like a weird, I don't know, at a weird angle. But yeah, it would be stick figures. And I came up with the book, and I was so proud because it was the first book that I had ever done. And then I was I live in a house with a bunch of girls, and we try to facilitate different roommate outings every month. Or at that time, this is pre-COVID, okay, y'all. And so we had decided that we were all going to go to the movies to see Charlie's Angels. Lo and behold, we were eating right before the movie started, and I found out that one of my housemates can draw. And not just draw, like, this girl can draw, okay? Like, didn't even realize, she just decided last year that she was going to draw. So we linked up, and from January up until, I would say, the beginning of October, we have been working together, like pre-COVID, during COVID, and now to a completed book. My illustrations are done for the book. I am now sending it to focus groups, which I feel like that's the best way to kind of get an idea of how the books are going to be received by other people that are not my own kids or, opinion.
Hey guys. So I had to pause real quick. I know you guys are enjoying the episode, but we did have some technical difficulties with video, and I ran out of storage on my phone and it just stopped recording. This is what happens in the new phases, but still continue to enjoy. The audio will be attached. So sorry about that. Okay, as you were.
But I am hitting a little bit of a roadblock because I just don't really know as far as printing. What should I do? Should I go with Amazon? Are there other options outside of Amazon? Should I do a wholesale print? As a self-publisher, how am I able to reap the most benefits for the work that I have been pouring into this project over the last year and a half, 2 years? So that's where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. Every day I wake up not knowing something about this process, but I'm doing it scared, and I think it's really funny because my name is Casi, and it's Gaelic for courage, and
really?
It's Gaelic for courage. And so I remember we were on the phone with a FaceTime with Harley, and she was crying because it was night time, and I was just like, well, maybe she's scared, like maybe she needs a nightlight. So no, she don't need no nightlight. She's fine. She just don't want to go to bed. Okay, cool, but for me, I was a very scared child. I distinctly remember waking up. I was probably 6, probably 7, waking up in the middle of the night, having nightmares, running to my parents' room, banging on their, like crying, screaming, and just being like, some of them I remember, some of them I don't, which makes me feel like I was like sleep crying or something.
Yeah.
But I remember my parents saying to me, Casi, do it scared. Like, live up to your name. Do it scared. Do it scared. And, at that time it was like, okay, well, now I'm just doing it scared, trying to learn how to sleep in my own room. But at this age as an adult, doing it scared means starting a publishing company. And this is nothing to do necessarily with your degree. I'd have no experience. So I'm just out here.
I think a lot of times, I don't even know, I don't know off the top of my head if I know anyone who's an entrepreneur and it ties to their degree.
Yeah.
But I will say from listening to you speak, the year gap of, you took that time and then you end up coming back to it a year later. That's a process. So I think too, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we feel like our steps are calculated. So it's like, I'm working on this, and then after that, this comes, and then after that, this comes. But sometimes there's a stagnant period. And you know what I'm saying? There's nothing there. And in that moment, sometimes it feels like nothing is going on, but it's still things going on. And sometimes you don't realize that until you're in the second or third step. And in that space of where it was stagnant, it's like, that's what I got from that. You know what I'm saying? And then in a sense too, like with the idea of you trying to figure out where you're going to print or what you're going to do, or just contacting me and asking me my takes on different things, that's using your resources. Because I just lost my thought. It was something that you had called me about, and you were asking me in detail pertaining to...
I think I was asking you about what should I do as far as Amazon? Should I do wholesale?
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was telling Casi, so I was able to give her, I feel, a good answer because I had been in that space, not necessarily like it directly is related to that, but my husband also helped me understand, like when starting a business, and especially if you have limited funding or your business funding is on the lower end of loans, like maybe $13,000, $14,000, what have you, you want to keep your costs minimal. So you don't want to incur too many costs starting out. So as opposed to like wholesaling or Amazon that Casi was asking, I had recommended choosing Amazon because Amazon would just be basically footing the bill. So you can use Amazon as a guinea pig for publishing and seeing how things would go. And then when you're in like a good wheel of motion for the business, then it's like, okay, Amazon didn't do that. I like the way they did that. So when I go to wholesaling and I'm working with this company, I can do it like this. And you've also gained some income, or because Amazon is footing the bill, it's less of your money that you would have to spend on that. So yeah, that was my takeaway.
Yeah.
And my tidbit and my 3 cents.
Your 3 cents. Yeah. I mean, I'll put my 3 cents somewhere else, but
tonight
I just wanted to give some free game.
Yes. Well, this was really, really fun.
Thanks for having me.
This was my first in-person podcast interview with my co-host, Casi J. And there will be more like these to come. So I would love for the podcast to kind of travel, like wherever I'm going. If I feel like you all will be greatly impacted by the people who are in my village or people that I know, and I'm not at home base, and home base will be Pivot, the salon suite, the podcast will travel. So we're in Georgia. I was about to say Jersey.
But we could be.
Yeah, but we're in Georgia. And this was a great weekend.
It was.
I'm going to let you guys know a little transparent moment because this is free game. Well, anything that I feel like would benefit people is free game. And I was literally stalling with this podcast, even down to today, in case he was like, we got to record. We got to record. And I'm just like, oh my God.
And we did have to, jump over some hurdles, but ultimately you work the kinks out with the people that and love you, and then you'll be good to go. Get the wiggles out.
Mm-hmm. And now I'm like, ooh, where am I gonna record next? It's just really exciting. And I'm just glad to experience this with you.
Honestly, if you didn't get anything else out of this episode, I want you to understand that the best way to learn how to be a boss is to be a boss to yourself. That's what I feel. Yeah. Ultimately, that's the biggest takeaway that I got.
Yeah.
So just gotta be disciplined. Pay yourself a certain amount so that you can have some. If you don't want to take out a loan, you gotta manage the money that's given to you from your 9 to 5. I saw a meme that was talking about don't think of your 9 to 5 as distracting from your plan A. There was this quote by Will Smith that was like, why have a plan B? Because plan B distracts from your plan A. But it's like plan A or plan B could be funding plan A. Your 9 to 5, if that's not where you want to end up, is funding your plan A. So don't overstay your time with plan B, but don't leave before it's time. It's a very skillful art.
It is.
You didn't get anything. You didn't get anything else from this episode. I'll leave you with that.
And shoot, just like Casey was saying, it may not be correct for me to say this, but these companies that people work for, I would even say work in retail in the past that I have worked for, they will hoe us out for the cost of their business. So it's kind of like you have to use them in a sense. It's like, okay, they getting some out of the deal, and I'm also getting these benefits in this 401k out of you.
They're the investors. They just
they just don't know. They're the solid partners, honey. You stay at that business, you learn especially if it's in the same spectrum of a business that you want to open. You stay there, you learn, even though it may not be the best. And I'm saying this like I worked a corporate 9 to 5, but I've been around enough people who have, especially my husband. And you stay there and you milk that company for what it's worth because they're milking you. And you take that knowledge and you hone it in and you use it on your own.
And that's a Finby fact.
Okay? And that's done on that. Period. Poop.
Oh my God. Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining me, and thank you all for tuning in so much on this third episode of Free Game with Emery Nicole. You can stream this podcast on all streaming platforms for podcasts, as well as watch us visually on YouTube. And we out.